It's 3 a.m. You're in a helium headspace. It's Thursday, October 16th, 2025. Barfly premiered today in 1987, directed by Barbet Schroeder. Starring Faye Dunaway, Alice Krige, Jack Nance, Pruitt Taylor Vance, and Mickey Rourke, who as Henry says, some people never go crazy. What truly horrible lives they must lead. It made $45,900 its opening weekend and has since accumulated $3.2 million. Today in 1947, David Zucker was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A few decades later, he and his brother Jerry, with Jim Abrahams, detonated American screen comedy with a new metric, laughs per minute. Airplane and Leslie Nielsen turned disaster movies into a physics experiment in Deadpan, where the straightest faces carried the most volatile punchlines. The Naked Gun did the same to the police procedural, stacking sight gags, verbal misfires, and shameless puns until the frame itself felt booby-trapped. Zucker's trick wasn't cruelty or smugness, it was rigor, treating silliness with engineering precision. He built machines where timing, framing, and the absolute seriousness of the performers created a pressure chamber for absurdity. You don't watch a Zucker gag so much as get hit by it. Then the aftershock of laughing at the stupid thing you just laughed at hits. David Zucker once said, O.J. Simpson was wonderfully stiff in both Capricorn 1 and The Towering Inferno. Although he actually improved with each film, his acting remained a lot like his murdering. He got away with it, but no one really believed him. Oscar Wilde entered the world in no doubt a fabulous way today in 1854 in Dublin, a place rich in words and wit, both of which he turned into weapons as he took on the world. From the start, Wilde seemed destined to irritate the ordinary. He dressed too well, spoke too sharply, and believed beauty was a moral principle, not a luxury. His plays, The Importance of Being Earnest and Ideal Husband, were glittering traps, inviting London society to laugh at the very vices it held dear. His novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray, scandalized readers who pretended to be shocked by the mirror he held up to them. Wilde's humor wasn't just a form or decoration, it was rebellion wrapped in charm. But the empire he mocked struck back. In 1895, at the height of his fame, Wilde was convicted of gross indecency for his relationship with Lord Alfred Douglas. The trial was a public execution by ridicule, his brilliance turned against him, his aphorisms quoted as evidence of sin. He served 2 brutal years of hard labor in Reading Gaol, where his body gave out, but his mind did not. From his cell came De Profundis, a long, bitter letter mixing confession, philosophy, and fury. He emerged ruined in wealth and reputation, yet unbowed in spirit. Exiled to France, he lived under the name Sebastian Melmoth, drinking absinthe and writing his last work, The Ballad of Reading Gaol. He died in a cheap Paris hotel in 1900, penniless, muttering that either the wallpaper would go or he would. He did first. Wilde's defiance wasn't in how he lived, it was in how he refused to stop living as himself. He exposed the hypocrisy and indecency of a society that prized manners over mercy and punished desire with destruction. His wit was his revenge, and it endures beyond their manners. And Lady Windermere's fan, Oscar Wilde, wrote, "We are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars." Today in 1888, in a New York City hotel room that looked out over Broadway's restless clamor, another Irishman, Eugene O'Neill, was born into the traveling chaos of the American stage. His father was a famous actor, and his mother was an opium-addicted soul wearied by the road, which set the tone for a life steeped in performance, yet always shadowed by pain. O'Neill grew up watching the curtain rise and fall on the stage, and he spent his career dragging American drama from melodrama's bright parlor into the darker, truer chambers of human longing. His plays, Long Day's Journey into Night, The Iceman Cometh, A Moon for the Misbegotten, weren't meant to entertain so much as to excavate. When he became the first American playwright to win the Nobel Prize, it wasn't for offering comfort, but for making the stage feel like life again, unforgiving, uncertain, yet always worth experiencing. Eugene O'Neill once said, "Life is for each man, a solitary cell whose walls are mirrors." Born today in 1927 in Danzig, Poland, Günter Grass grew up in the wreckage of one Germany and spent his life demanding the next one tell the truth. His 1959 novel, The Tin Drum, follows a boy named Oscar Matzerath, who decides at the age of 3 to stop growing as a protest against the adult world. Armed with a toy drum and a scream that can shatter glass, Oscar beats his way through the madness of Nazi Germany and its guilty aftermath. The story is part myth, part grotesque comedy, part national confession, and it shook post-war Europe like a dinner plate dropped on tile. Grass's prose was earthy, surreal, and relentless. When he later won the Nobel Prize in 1999, it wasn't just for literary craft, but for forcing his country to face the echoes of its own cellar. He reminded readers that history doesn't march neatly. It stumbles, rages, and occasionally bangs drums sometimes out of tune with the world around it. In his Nobel acceptance speech, Günter Grass said it was our duty to take the goose step out of the German language, to make words march differently. Today in Columbus, Georgia, in 1959, Shay Youngblood arrived. She grew up in a circle of big mamas and aunties, went out with the Peace Corps, and came back writing like she'd bottled thunder. Stories and plays about girls raised by a village, about art as a survival skill, about maps you draw yourself when you refuse to navigate the ones that exist. Her breakout play, Shakin' the Mess Out of Misery, is a memory quilt stitched from the voices of Southern women. Her novel Black Girl in Paris follows a young writer who goes to the City of Light to chart her own latitude and longitude. The current runs the same in both. Identity, community, and the stubborn courage to make your life by your hand. Youngblood died last year, but the work still hums like a porch song at dusk, plain-spoken, haunted, and hopeful. In Black Girl in Paris, Shay Youngblood wrote, "Art is just as important as food, 'cause if your soul ain't nourished, you one empty motherfucker." Today's poem is by Oscar Wilde, from the Ballad of Reading Gaol. He did not wear his scarlet coat, for blood and wine are red, and blood and wine were on his hands when they found him with the dead, the poor dead woman whom he loved and murdered in her bed. He walked amongst the trial men in a suit of shabby gray, a cricket cap was on his head, and his step seemed light and gay, but I never saw a man who looked so wistfully at the day. I never saw a man who looked with such a wistful eye upon that little tint of blue which prisoners call the sky, and at every drifting cloud that went with sails of silver by. I walked, with other souls in pain, within another ring, and was wondering if the man had done a great or little thing when a voice behind me whispered low, "That fellow's got to swing." Dear Christ! The very prison walls suddenly seemed to reel, and the sky above my head became like a cask of scorching steel. And, though I was a soul in pain, my pain I could not feel. And those are some of the things we humans have done over the years. Do good work, smile more, and please follow our work.